Hi everyone, so today we're working on a snowblower that the electric starter has apparently failed. This is the part number of the blower, and the symptoms are pretty simple, and I took that out. Normally that box sits on the top here, right here. So when you press the button, obviously when the cord is inserted, you press the button, nothing happens. So first test is I opened up the box here. It does open up. It's kind of tedious because see a few of the little rivets. They're not rivets, they're just guides really. Did snap, but this is the other side of it. Right? So I still have a number of them that are still good. And you have two screws on the top that kind of clamp it down to the chassis right here to the top. So check your connections. So here you see the ground is already broken on this one. This is an old one, 1998, right? It's an old model. But I checked and I made sure that the switch was operating correctly, which was the case. I have a bit of a drop of tension between these two for some odd reasons, possibly corrosion or bad contacts, because again, these do get a little bit corroded over time. But the next step is gonna be so there is tension there. I could check whether there is power getting to the motor, and that's what I'm going to do next. Take this out. What seems to be the problem is that the starter has died. It does happened on my car actually not so long ago. And to take that out, you have screws at the very bottom here. There are Torx, and you have two others behind there that are Torx as well. So 4 Torx, 2 at the top, 2 at the bottom. You need to take that out because it's in the way, and so that's going to be the starting point. If you've confirmed that there is no problem with the electrical connections right here, chances are it's your starter that has gone. So again, this is 1998, 25 years plus, so wouldn't be necessarily surprising. The parts are available online. I'll put the link in the description. Again, I'm gonna take out the starter, test it out, and see what gives. So let's go. All right, so we've removed the gas tank, set it to the side. Make sure that you don't disconnect the hose that goes to it because you're gonna put gas everywhere. Quick correction on this, since they are actually hex, right? They're not Torx. So there are Torx at the bottom, but there are hex at the top. So they look a little bit different at the bottom here, you can see. There is a Torx imprint, but you would be able to take them out using a hex as well. In order to get to these top tier, the top ones, we're gonna have to remove this little bracket here. That looks like, it seems to be Imperial, by the way, not metric. So the first two screws at the top they were 3/8 actually. Is the size of the bit that I used to take the two screws that come from the top here that are holding the tank to the bracket, right? So I'm gonna take a look at this. It might be the same size, although it does look quite bigger. Yeah, it's definitely bigger than that. So I'm gonna look into this, possibly half inch. So I'll keep going. Okay, bracket is out. That was 7/16. Now we're going back to these two and the two at the bottom. These are 3/8 for the 4 of them. You have the option for the bottom to do 3/8 or Torx. I will go 3/8, and but you can use either or. For the top, it is 3/8. All right, quick note about the removal of these bolts. You're gonna need a very thin-walled bit. So this is 1/4 inch. 3/8 or the next one over is probably gonna be too thick because you're right against the body of the starter here. So you need something pretty slim in order to get in this hole. And the bottom here, just want to show you again what the bolts actually look like. Well, that's what they are. So Torx in the middle, but still 3/8 at the top. So if you want to use a 3/8 bit, you can also do this here. Same idea here. You need to be aligned with the bolt. So my drill is actually, unless you use an extension, it's gonna be a little hard to get really in line with the bolt, but pretty easy overall. So let's keep going. All right, so another comment. I got the screws out at the bottom, and as it turns out, you actually just need to loosen them. You don't need to take them all out because you can loosen the bottom and then remove the top screws, or you can remove the screws at the bottom, and as you can tell, the starter just dropped on its own, and you just simply take it out and your starter is out. So now it's just a matter of checking the part number. This is a Tekimseth product, which is exactly what I thought it was. I'm going to continue testing it to ensure that, so see, as you see the holes, so you need to take the bottom out, because the bottom is here, right? See, they're round holes. You take the bottom screws out, and then the top simply slides out. I didn't even touch the top screws here. They're still in place. Nothing has changed. What I need to do here now is test the starter and see what's going on with it. It's probably dead at this point, but I will double check just to make sure. All right, so I plugged the starter to my extension cord, and I've got the push button here. I'm just gonna press down on it. Yeah, nothing's happening. So I'm gonna take out the back here. It's out of warranty anyways, there's nothing I can do with it. So there are three long bolts that likely go all the way to here. That's normally how these starters are made. Take the bottom out and see whether there could be a bad contact or something, but at this point I think this thing is pushed, so I'll double check just in case. All right, the screws are out. For reference, these screws, you would be using a 5/16 bit, two long screws, one short screw. The short screw doesn't screw into the other end of the body. The two long ones are actually on opposite corners here. You'll see, because they do lock in on that side here, right? So I do have the I think this is the rotor. So the rotor is out. Looks pretty good, although I'm not exactly sure whether there could be a problem with the winding. That's a possibility. And I do have this side here. You can see the brushes, really not that worn out. So again, same thing. I'll test the winding with my ohm meter and find out whether there is any interruption there. For the rotor, I'm not too sure whether I'll be able to test it. But the stator, I should be able to check that out. So let's do that. Now the quick test is I connected the extension cord to the box and I checked the voltage on the two terminals. So that one here and the other one over there with my voltmeter. And I pressed the button and I wanted to check whether I had voltage up here. And I did. So that means that the wiring all the way to the box here is good, from the box to the stator, but something's going on with the motor where the motor doesn't turn. So it could be a winding issue or it could be something else. Okay, so now testing the winding of the stator. So I've got my ohm meter in my multimeter is in ohm meter position, and I'm gonna test between these two here, so that terminal and that one. We should have continuity, and let's take a look here. Yeah, so the winding on this side is good. Well, let's look at the rotor now, but again, testing this, I'm not exactly sure where to start. So the first thing is to do a visual inspection. I did not see anything in particular that would lead me to believe that this is defective. There's no heat mark or overheating. Everything seems to be good. The one thing that I've done is actually clean up the copper ending here, so the contacts that come in touch with the brushes. So I used a very fine 320 sandpaper is all that I had here. Anything finer would be perfect, just to kind of bring the copper back to its normal visual appearance. It should be shiny like this. Next step is to test each of those contacts to determine whether there could be perhaps failed insulation. So you will need to test the resistance between each one of them in line, right? So you see a line here between this one and that one, and this one and that one, and this one and that one, and ensure that there isn't any. You shouldn't see open loop on your ohm meter. It shouldn't be. It should remain. Well, you should see open loop actually in your ohm meter. If you see, if you have a reading between these tests that you're doing, these connections, then that means that the insulation has failed, and this is touching fundamentally this circuit, and that will actually make the motor fail. That's not how it's supposed to do. That's why you have insulation in between, right? The white stuff here, that's insulation. That's typically paper or plastic here. Then you need to take a measure between each of these two. So every time you test between these two here. So with my ohm meter, I would grab my terminals on my connectors, and I would test these two, and I will get a specific reading, right? It's hard to do with one hand, but you test them by pairs. So this one with that one, with that one, with that one, and then you keep going, right? You turn your motor, and you'll see I put a little mark here, black mark, just to make sure I don't test them twice. So that one with this one. So you test the resistance between these two, and you should always get a similar reading, which was the case for me. And then from what I know on those, you would actually test the opposites as well. So you have 16 of those. You would test them. It's easier to put it vertical in this case, which is what I did here. And I would just let it sit like this and test the two opposites, right? Again, with one hand, I can't quite show you, but you would test that one with this one, right 180 degrees, and see whether you get a consistent reading between all of them. I tested all of them in my case, and everything seems to be fine. So I'm gonna try to put it back together and see whether it comes back to life. If it doesn't, then possibly the winding has failed somewhere. Hard to tell. I'll see if I can do some further testing, but at this point, since I do need my snowblower, I might just choose to replace the motor altogether. All right, I'm now at the point that I need to put the rotor back into the stator, and in order to do that, you would need to push all the 4 brushes in at the same time. They're spring-loaded, so it's a bit of a pain. The best way that I found is to use a little bit of wire here to hold this in place, and that one in place, and the 2 others I'm just gonna hold them by hand and then insert the rotor back in the housing, and I should be good to go. Okay, so the rotor is now back in its housing. Worked out pretty well. I'm gonna reconnect that terminal. I took that out because I wanted to make some space, so it goes on the other side right here, and then I'm gonna reassemble the whole thing. All right, so I'm done with the testing, and I'm done reassembling the starter. Plug my extension cord to the plug, and yeah, still nothing. So I think this starter unfortunately is dead. There might be something else that I didn't see. The testing that I've done was apparently good. I didn't find anything concerning or any anomaly. So at this point, I'm just gonna have to replace it. I'm just hoping that this might help you troubleshoot your problem with your snowblower or with your starter. Electric motors can be tricky to fix. Windings, number of tests need to be done. Here, I didn't find anything, so I'm just gonna replace it. All right, so I received the part. So again, I ordered that one from Amazon. If you're tight on budget, you might want to take a look at Marketplace. I actually came across a few that were for sale. This is a pretty standard model. It's a Taking Seth model 33329. There are different variations to this model, so you might want to take a look at yours in particular. But it's the exact same, right? So you look at these two, they're fundamentally the same units. And except that this one obviously works, this one doesn't. So I wanted to show you what the behavior should be when you have a new one. So I'm going to plug my orange extension cord here. And to be noted that this model actually did come with another extension cord. This is about 10 feet long, which is always a good thing to have. And it came with all the hardware, including the new screws here. And you see that there are 2 different types, right? As I mentioned the first time around, you have one that's got a Torx imprint, and the other one is a hex with a Phillips imprint in the middle. So that came with the kit as well. So when you have your starter, make sure you hold it still, because that thing is gonna want to go. So you press on the button, you hold it, firmly, and there you go. Your starter should turn, just like that. Now the other one, as a reminder, which was actually the original problem. As a side note, actually this one was also missing the ground, which shouldn't be an issue, but certainly has been damaged for quite a while. By pressing the button, nothing happens. So this one again, I've gone through the steps of trying to understand what the problem was. Didn't find anything with the winding or anything in particular. I might spend more time on this and do more tests and try to find out what the problem is, but so far I wasn't able to determine what was the issue. So I'm going to leave that one aside. We're going to reassemble the new motor on the snowblower, and we should be good to go. So we're back on the snowblower. I will leave these two screws in place, and I will reuse the old screws because they were in good condition. We're going to just reinstall the motor, so pretty straightforward. You will have to engage it into the flywheel that's right in the back here. So in fact, I can show you what's behind it if you're interested. And that is basically the flywheel of your snowblower. So as you saw, when we're starting the starter, the very end extends and it basically gets into the teeth of your flywheel here, and it basically turns it, and that allows your blower to start. Right? So it's fundamental concept of a starter, very similar on the car. It's the same idea. So here, what we're going to do is reinsert it in its position. Note that the black cap stays in place, right? And we're going to engage the top screws in between the low legs. It might take a little bit of wiggling here. There we are. The legs are engaged. And we're going to use our bit here and put the bit at the bottom. Not the bit, I'm sorry. Put the bolt at the bottom. And I'm going to use my bit here. Again, this is a 3/8. Now remember to use the slim design, the thin wall bit, to get in this corner. It's a little tight. If you have an extension, that's even better. It'll make your life easier. So again, using a long extension here, that'll make your life significantly easier if you want to clear the tire, which can get a bit in the way in this case. If you want to make sure your screw is properly positioned. Okay, so we've tightened the lower bolts. We've verified the upper bolts as well, which I didn't touch. So everything is tight and good. Do not over tighten the bolts at the bottom. You are screwing into aluminum, so it's really not super strong of a metal, and you might strip it, right? Now we're going to reattach the bracket here. It goes like this. This one is a bit of a bigger bit. There we go. And this is basically the support for the gas tank, right? So you have these two little tabs here that kind of lock into the gas tank. And be careful with the gas tank because these screws go straight through the plastic. So gas can actually escape from the screws here, the screw holes. So just be mindful of that. Make sure it's straight. There we go. Then we're going to reattach the gas tank. It should actually lock in. If it's not horizontal, you can still readjust it a little bit. Okay, put the screws at the top. You'll realize that it's the screws at the top go straight through the plastic because there's a strong gas smell that's coming from there. So low torque setting, if you're using a power tool, you are screwing into plastic. go. That's done. And then we have our 2 screws at the very top that are holding the switch in place. Switch box is right here, and this goes under the cables and right in the front here. Pretty straightforward. Run the screws through, approach them by hand. Same thing here. And this one is a very small bit, but it's got a Phillips imprint on the screws, so you can actually install them using a Phillips bit. So here what I'm doing is I'm going backwards first. You'll feel a click, and that ensures that you're reusing the same thread. Okay, I'm gonna lower the torque a little bit. It's good. So it's solidly attached, and the job is fundamentally done at this point. So we're gonna start it, remove all the tools and everything you may have in the way. So we're on choke right now. We'll prime it, plug the extension cord. There we go. And let's see how that works. Okay, so that worked just fine. I have a nice plume of smoke here. Probably should have thought about this. I'm gonna open the door and we're good to go. If you have any questions, leave them in the comment section below. I hope this video was helpful. See you next time.